Your border collie is standing in the backyard, completely still, one paw lifted, eyes locked on something across the fence that you can't see, can't hear, and honestly aren't sure exists. You call their name, nothing, they don't even blink. Most people read that as anxiety, or intensity, or just border collie weirdness. But what if it's none of those things? What if your dog is genuinely experiencing a version of that backyard that you don't have access to, picking up signals your senses can't register, processing data your brain wasn't built to handle? That's what this video is about, not border collie training, not managing difficult behavior, the actual neurology of what it's like to be this breed, why they respond to things you can't detect, why rest costs them something, and why their world is genuinely not the same as yours. This is Collie Mind, real breed psychology, not generic dog tips. Subscribe if you want to understand what's actually happening inside this dog. By the end of this, that frozen dog in the yard is going to make complete sense. Start with what created this animal, because the border collie wasn't bred to be a smart companion. That's not what happened here. For over 200 years, breeders selected for one thing specifically: a dog that could read a moving flock, track a distant human handler giving silent signals, and make hundreds of small decisions every hour, continuously, without breaking focus, without being told what to do next. That's an extraordinary selective pressure, and it didn't just shape what border collies do, it shaped how their brains are built. Most breeds have a nervous system that idles low. Rest is the default state. Work is something they shift into when needed, and when it's done, they shift back out. A border collie's nervous system doesn't work that way. Their baseline activation is higher, the idle speed is faster. They're not ramping up to alertness, they're already there all the time, and what they're doing when they seem calm is actively managing that state, not naturally resting in it. Now think about the predatory motor sequence, the biological chain that runs through every dog. Stalk, eye, chase, herd, grab, kill. Most breeds got pieces of that chain. Border collies got something unusual. Breeders kept the stalk, kept the eye, kept the chase and the herd, and then cut the chain before the kill. That intensity, that drive, that locked-in focus of a predator was preserved completely, but the release at the end was removed. So the sequence runs and then it loops. There's no natural endpoint that discharges it. The drive folds back on itself and starts again. This is also why dopamine works differently in this breed. For most dogs, rest is neutral. It doesn't cost anything neurologically. For a border collie, work is the baseline their brain expects. When there's no work available, the system doesn't go quiet. It searches, it finds something, it has to. That frozen dog in the yard isn't misfiring. The brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is just that there are no sheep. So you've got a brain running at a permanently elevated idle, with a drive loop that never fully closes. Now think about what that brain is connected to. Border collies were bred to work open hillsides, miles of terrain, wind, terrain, distance, and a flock of animals that could scatter in any direction without warning. To do that job, they needed to detect motion that other dogs would miss entirely. A ewe turning her head 200 yards out, the subtle shift in a flock's posture before it moves. That visual sensitivity was bred in generation after generation because the dogs who couldn't see those micro movements weren't useful. That visual system didn't switch off when your dog moved into a house. It just found new targets. A flicker of light under a closed door is data. The shadow from a ceiling fan crossing the floor is data. The twitch of your hand when you reach for your phone, data. Your border collie's visual field picks up motion in the peripheral range at a resolution most breeds simply don't have. They're not imagining things. They're not being dramatic. They're running the same sensory hardware that once tracked a scattered flock across wind and open ground, and right now it's aimed at your living room. Sound works the same way. A working dog on a hillside needs to filter and catalog sounds constantly. The handler's whistle cutting through wind, the position of the flock based on the direction of their movement, the difference between a sheep that's panicked and one that's just wandering. That auditory processing doesn't simplify in a domestic setting. Your BC isn't just hearing the neighbor's car pull in before you do. They've already filed it, compared it to yesterday's sound at the same time, and noted that it's 2 minutes earlier than usual. Now add the cortisol layer, because this is where it gets genuinely remarkable. Border collies don't just observe your emotional state, they absorb it. Research on herding breed stress responses shows that these dogs track owner anxiety and mirror it physiologically, not just in behavior. Their cortisol levels shift in response to yours. A tense morning in your house isn't background noise to your Border Collie. It registers in their body, they carry it. So picture what a chaotic environment actually is for this dog. Every sound is being filed and cross-referenced. Every movement in the room is being tracked. Every shift in your posture or tone is being absorbed into their stress system. There's no sensory filter that says this one doesn't matter. Everything comes in at full volume, and the brain that was built to work 12 hours on a hillside is now trying to process all of it in a kitchen. What looks like obsession, the fixation on a ball, the staring at shadows, the inability to settle, isn't a quirk or a personality flaw. It's a sensory system built for vast open space trying to manage an overwhelming amount of close-range input with no productive outlet for any of it. You close the last browser tab. You silence the Slack notifications. You turn off the background music you stopped actually hearing an hour ago, and the silence that follows feels wrong. The quiet should feel like relief. It doesn't. Sensory overload fatigue isn't stress in the conventional sense. It's what happens when the nervous system habituates to a constant incoming stream, notifications, audio, motion, switching, and then the stream stops. The system doesn't immediately downregulate. It keeps scanning. Your eyes move toward your phone not because you're expecting anything, but because the brain is still in receive mode and doesn't know what to do with the absence of signal. The contrast here isn't with calm, it's with noise. You haven't lost the ability to be still. You've just spent long enough in the current that stillness stopped feeling like rest and started feeling like something missing. You've trained yourself to need the noise. Pull the three layers together. The engineered brain that never fully idles. The sensory system processing everything at full intensity. The predictive intelligence modeling the world in real time. In your Border Collie, these aren't separate traits. They're one integrated system running exactly as designed. That frozen dog in the yard at the start of this video wasn't being strange. They were doing precisely what 200 years of selective breeding prepared them to do. The problem was never the dog. It was the mismatch between what this animal was built for and how the world keeps responding to it. So next time your BC locks onto something invisible or mirrors your stress straight back at you, don't reach for a correction. Recognize it as the operating system running, not a malfunction. This is what Collie Mind is here for. The real psychology of this specific breed. Share this with every Border Collie handler you know, because most of them are misreading their dog every single day.